Thanks for joining us. I'm Nancy Furness, and this is We've Got Issues. We'd like to thank the Coquitlam City Centre Library for giving us a space to carry out our interviews, and I'd also like to acknowledge that the interview is taking place on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded lands of Coquitlam First Nation. So I'd like to thank the Coquitlam people who continue to live on the lands and to care for the lands and the waters and all that lies above and below. Joining me today is Nicole Steglich, the Senior Project Engineer, and Alec Wu, the Assistant Project Engineer at United Boulevard Recycling and Waste Centre. And so you're both with Metro Vancouver. So thank you so much for joining me today, Nicole and Alec.
Thanks for having us.
Can you start us off by just telling us a little bit about the services in sort of general terms that are provided at the United Boulevard facility?
So we refer to United Boulevard as being a full services facility, which means it offers free recycling, paid recycling, and garbage drop-off.
Okay, who runs the facility? Can you tell us a little bit about the entity that runs it and oversees it, and also who can use it?
Yeah, so the facility is owned by Metro Vancouver, so regional government, and then there's a contractor that operates it for us that was established through a public procurement process for their expertise and offering best value. In terms of who can use the facility, it's for residents and businesses in Metro Vancouver.
Oh, great. So it's not just Coquitlam, but Port Coquitlam, Port Moody folks could go there as well and use the facilities.
Exactly, and it does primarily serve the Tri-Cities as well as the city of Burnaby and the city of New Westminster being in closest proximity.
Okay, that's good to know. Now we have home pickup of recycling and garbage, and I was wondering, can you tell me, is that separate or is it part of the same stream? Do the products go to different places? Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So the garbage that's collected from homes and from businesses in the Tri-Cities, that's coming to the United Boulevard Recycling Center.
I always wondered about that.
Yes, and then with respect to the recycling that's collected from homes, so that is a separate stream, and that's managed by an organization known as Recycle BC.
Oh, okay. I have actually used the United Boulevard facility a few times. And each time that I've gone, I've been really impressed with the way that it's run. I think we just had a brief conversation about this earlier about, it's so easy to use. Can you just walk us through, for somebody who maybe hasn't used it or who's hesitant to use it because they think it might be really complicated, can you walk us through what happens if you arrive with a car full of recyclables? What next?
So when a resident arrives at the facility, they're going to follow the path of travel for the public. And along that route, the first left turn is into the recycling depot for the drop-off of free recyclables. And from there, so the resident can choose to drop off free recyclables, or if the resident has paid recycling or garbage, they're going to continue to proceed along the main road to the small vehicle scale.
Okay, it sounds very straightforward, and it is. I can attest to that. There's some wonderful people there to help you out if you have questions. Can you tell us about what can we recycle and maybe what can't we recycle?
Absolutely. So if it's the first time coming to the facility and you've got some recyclables, there's usually a staff member that's stationed at the entrance to the recycling depot to be able to ask, hey, what do you have? And then to direct the people where to go. In terms of materials accepted for recycling, we've got our free recyclables that are accepted in the recycling depot and our paid recyclables. And so there's more than 20 types of materials that are accepted for free for recycling. It includes packaging and paper materials that are collected curbside if you have more that you want to drop off, as well as other types of packaging that you can't put in your blue box at home. So white foam packaging, flexible plastic,
styrofoam,
the big ones. And then in terms of other materials, there's also used oil, propane tanks, batteries, paint, and a wealth of other materials that...
Yeah, you even accept like small electronics and things like that. Yeah, it's sometimes confusing. I think for a long time, people were putting those flexible plastics into recycling, and I don't think you're supposed to, right? All those shopping bags, when we used to have the plastic shopping bags. Are you seeing a reduction in plastics, or is it hard to tell?
I think it's what we've seen in terms of the free recyclables and taking the flexible plastics like the shopping
Mm.
bags back at the recycling depot. There's a lot of demand for that service. It's quite
Okay.
popular. So it's great that that material now has a defined home.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of to mention the paid recycling, so we don't forget about those. There's a clean wood, yard trimmings,
Oh,
mattresses, and new gypsum or drywall that are accepted for a fee for recycling.
okay. And do you go to the same facility? Is that all part of the United Boulevard one where you drive in?
It is. It's part of the same facility, and within the facility, it's divided into the recycling depot for the free recyclables, and
Mm-hmm.
then the paid services area. So that's going to be for the paid recycling and garbage drop off.
Right. And businesses also use this facility at a cost?
Businesses, the majority of the recyclables are also accepted
Oh,
from
okay.
businesses. The only exception being the residential packaging and paper, so the white
Right.
foam packaging and the flexible plastics. There's an area that's for residents only, and that's clearly defined with signage.
Okay. You have just given us so much good information. Is there somewhere that people can go to find this information and to maybe look at a list of things that can be recycled and some of those things that can't be recycled?
Yes, so the United Boulevard Recycling and Waste Center webpage has a wealth of information to prepare for your visit, including accepted materials and fees, a visitor guide, and a virtual facility tour. So for those who are familiar with Google Maps and Street View, there's
Ah,
a tour of that nature that you can do to help you navigate once you're there, know what to expect, so that you can feel comfortable using the facility if it's your first time.
that's good to know. It's worth checking out. When you go to the facility, you have mentioned that there's somebody there to direct you to the right spot, and then there's different bins that you need to put the different recyclables in. How do you make sure that things go into the right bin, and maybe talk a little bit about why that's important?
So a couple of strategies to make sure that materials are going to the right place. The signage is of course most critical, so
Mm-hmm.
that from a distance so you can see where the various materials go. And then the staff, the role of the staff there, they play such an important role in educating customers what can go
Right.
where, materials that unfortunately can't be accepted at the site. So things like medications,
Oh, right.
yeah, which would go
Goes
back to
back to the pharmacy.
pharmacies, exactly,
Yes.
as well as materials not accepted would be kind of unknown household chemicals. You're
Uh,
doing your spring cleanup, you
hmm.
find something at the back of the
The
garage, not
labels
sure
come
what it
off
is.
and the can's corroded and okay,
Yes,
yes.
exactly. Fire extinguishers is another
Oh,
one
okay.
that we don't manage at the facility. With that being said, the resources available to find where to take those materials.
Hmm.
There's the Metro Vancouver Recycles searchable database
Okay.
that's accessible on the facility webpage. And then we're fortunate in British Columbia to have the recycling hotline, which is
Oh, that's another
604 Recycle.
okay, great resource. 604 Recycle if you're unsure.
Exactly. And it's a situation where you're talking to a person, you can talk through the details, and then they're going to provide options and a bit of background information if that's what you're looking for as well.
And you had mentioned that there's signage and there's also some really helpful folks there who will make sure that you don't put things where they shouldn't go, and they're very helpful in guiding you to put them in the right spot. Why is it so important that things are properly sorted?
Thank you for asking that question, because that is the behind the scenes of where those recyclables go. They're being transported to licensed recycling facilities, and if there is contaminants in with the recyclables, they're going to make it harder to sort through to get the recyclable materials. And then, there is the potential that something that's set aside for recycling that can be recycled, unfortunately, can't continue through the process.
Okay, so can you talk a little bit more about where do all these recyclables go? Because there's so many there's such a variety of different items. They don't all go to the same place, do they?
They don't. There's a variety of recycling facilities that specialize in particular materials to sort them, process them, and then to sell them to end market so that they can be made into new materials or new items. It's also helpful to manage that a number of the free recyclables that are collected at the facility are collected for as part of extended producer responsibility programs. And so that's where producers and consumers are responsible for the cost for managing those materials.
Right.
So that means that users of the facility, as well as municipalities and owners, don't pay for the management of those materials. So that includes things like the residential packaging, the paint, the used oil.
Okay, yeah, no, that's really good information, because sometimes we hear like, oh, we don't know where this recycling goes and it just ends up in the landfill, but it sounds like that's not the case. So there's lots of other uses and extended uses and new lives that are being given to these products. Can you talk a little bit about maybe the environmental benefits of recycling, and also what maybe some of the costs to the Tri-Cities are if we don't recycle?
So the benefits of having the United Boulevard Recycling and Waste Center where it is that it's close in proximity, it's convenient.
It's very convenient.
A number of materials are accepted, so that means it's more likely that people are going to set aside materials for recycling. And aiming to have a one-stop drop means you don't have to drive to multiple places to drop off those materials. And then the added perk there of the convenience is that it's less likely that people will illegally dump materials.
Right.
And then from a cost perspective, when for the curbside collection of garbage, when the drop-off location is close by, it means the crews are spending the bulk of their time and energy doing the collections, and then we can consolidate the garbage, put it into larger loads, fewer trips to disposal facilities, so it's reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
Actually, never thought of that part of it. So yeah, that's some really good points there. We like to think that everything can be recycled, and sometimes we put things in there thinking they can and they can't. What happens to things that really and honestly and truly cannot be recycled? Where do they end up?
So they end up at our disposal facilities. So our non-recyclable garbage in Metro Vancouver is going to the City of Vancouver landfill in Delta, or the Metro Vancouver waste to energy facility in Burnaby. Any garbage in excess of what those facilities can handle goes to for remote disposal.
Okay, and remote disposal is out of country or just out of the Lower Mainland?
Region.
Out of region. Okay. Can you talk a little bit about waste to energy? How does that work?
Yeah, you bet. I can actually highlight with respect to landfilling and waste to energy. So for landfilling, the landfill gas that comes from the waste, in particular organics or food waste in the garbage, that is collected and then it's burned to generate electricity, and will soon be purified to use for renewable natural gas. So that's one way that environmental impacts are managed.
So that's coming out of the landfill that we're using? And is that what those pipes are? Sometimes we see these, I think it's methane pipes. Is it up on United Boulevard?
Yes,
so that's,
exactly. Yes,
okay.
Because the United Boulevard Recycling and Waste Center is constructed on the old Coquitlam landfill.
Right.
So collecting the gas. I mean, ideally we want food waste out of the landfill and not generating gas, but for that has ended up there, we collect the gas. For the waste to energy facility, where the garbage is incinerated in a very controlled environment, the waste heat is used to generate electricity. And soon, a new project that's underway is to use that waste heat to provide heating and hot water for district energy in the River District.
Oh, wow.
That's an exciting project.
That is. That's, yeah. I mean, that's like true recycling, right? You're just making the best use of that.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, recovering the energy. And then through incineration, there are still some waste products, the ash from that, but the volume is significantly reduced compared to what it starts out as.
Okay. And Metro Vancouver, one of the other sort of roles is air quality. So is that incineration, is that managed somehow and filtered and scrubbed, and I don't know what happens to the waste that comes out of there?
So in terms of the emissions from the waste to energy facility, it's they're closely monitored and controlled. Okay. Beyond that, we do have some information on the waste to energy facility webpage. So that will be a great resource that we can include.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds great. So there's some innovative projects coming up.
One of the projects or programs that I want to highlight is that in terms of minimizing what's going for disposal as garbage, recycling plays a critical role in that. And even better than recycling is keeping materials, like reusing materials, keeping them in circulation.
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Exactly. Okay. And so that's why Alec has played a pivotal role in a reuse program that's now in place at United Boulevard. So I'm going to pass it over to him to share about that program.
Yeah, we'd love to hear more, Alec.
Thanks, Nicole. So in general, people sometimes throw away items or they recycle items because they feel like it's the easiest thing to do. And donating items can be confusing, like what can be accepted and what can't be. But reusing unwanted items actually leads to less waste and helps maximize the value of each item over its lifetime. And so we are actually moving items up the waste hierarchy because reusing items is preferable to recycling, as Nicole mentioned. So Metro Vancouver already has some clothing donation bins as well as book donation bins, and with this new program with a nonprofit organization named Big Brothers of Greater Vancouver, we're now able to accept more items than before. So Big Brothers has staff that connect with customers on site, and what they do is they'll assess items that are small household goods, such as games and dishes, tools, small electronics, and decor items. And they'll be the experts that can tell you what can be donated and what can't be donated so that residents can donate with confidence. And in general, it's never been easier and more convenient to donate items. And so therefore, we are seen now as kind of a one-stop shop, because even if your item can't be donated, we are the proper recycling and disposal option that's available to residents.
Wow, that's a great initiative. So when people bring in things like clothing or small electrical, household electronics, things like that, do they have to be in good repair, or they have to be in working order and usable order?
It depends on the item. So some items, maybe they can be taken for parts. Other items, they will have to be working. But in general, if you think that it may be donated, please bring it in. The experts will let you know. And even if not, you're at the right place to deal with it further.
Great point. So you're where you need to be, whether you can reuse or recycle. So is there anything else you'd like to add? Any other words to residents that might be interested in coming and checking out the facility or making use of the services?
I want to encourage residents, if they haven't yet, to come and visit the facility with their materials, especially I think about the flexible plastics. I know that's one that builds up for me at home. And we really value feedback, whether it's positive feedback or whether it's something that could be improved. So we have on the facility webpage, there's a link for questions and comments, and that goes to a simple form to complete that comes directly to us as the owner of the facility. So really encourage feedback.
Well, thank you so much. It's been really interesting. I've learned a lot about the United Boulevard Recycling and Waste Center, and I know I've used it a number of times, and I'm really impressed with how easy and well organized it is. And now with this new initiative, it's all the more reason to go back, right? So thank you so much for coming in and talking to us today.
Thank you so much for your interest.
Thanks so much, Nancy.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for joining us. This is We've Got Issues, and I've been speaking with Nicole and Alec of Metro Vancouver, and they are with the United Boulevard Recycling and Waste Center. So thank you so much.